All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at a fascinating, seriously lesser-known chapter of history hidden way up in the mountains of Uttarakhand. We're talking about a story of absolute resilience, heavy royal duty, and an incredible transformation that has survived for literally centuries, completely outside the margins of your standard textbooks.
Let's start off with a bit of a modern mystery. Who exactly is the goddess living in the songs of the Himalayas? Because every single year, specifically on Makar Sankranti, you have thousands of people gathering in the mountains, and they're all chanting Jai Jiya to a figure who is, well, virtually invisible in mainstream history books. So, who are they calling out to? And why on earth does her memory command such fierce devotion today?
Well, what's so fascinating here is how history in this region isn't just, read in some quiet library. It's actually lived, and it's preserved through a cultural practice called Jagar. A Jagar is this trance-inducing, sacred musical performance where ancestors and heroes are literally invoked. It's a deeply spiritual, emotionally charged cultural reenactment. Honestly, it's how the people of Uttarakhand ensure their true heroes are never, ever forgotten. And a huge part of this preservation relies on a very specific sonic atmosphere. Just listen to the theater of the mind for a second. We're looking at these traditional instruments of the Jagar. You've got the dol damau, the tori, the ranzinga, the mashakabaja, which are kind of like mountain bagpipes, and the khudka. Imagine the air just vibrating with their intense rhythm. This music is specifically designed to induce a trance where it's deeply believed the queen herself actually descends to bless the devotees.
Part 1. A queen is forged.
So, to understand who is descending from the spiritual realm, we really need to understand who she was in the mortal realm. Her story begins with the making of a mountain queen, born Maula Devi Pundir from the Haridwar region. The absolute crucial point here is her training. She wasn't just some royal figurehead meant to sit quietly in a palace. No way. She was a highly educated, martially trained Rajput princess, skilled in scriptures, languages, warfare, and statecraft. Eventually, she became the second wife to King Pritham Dev of the ancient Katyuri dynasty in Kumail.
But her royal life wasn't exactly a simple fairy tale. She was actually deeply conflicted about her marriage to the much older King Pritham Dev. She famously lamented, "My father fixed my marriage to an old king for the sake of his word. What can I do? I am helpless before societal shame." This emotional struggle really set the stage for her living a somewhat isolated life. She ended up finding solace in the royal gardens of Rani Bagh, living in a peaceful little cave near the Gala River.
Part 2. Timur's brutal invasion.
Right, so the piece of that riverside cave along the Gala River? Yeah, that would not last long. We can track the apocalyptic arrival of the Central Asian conqueror, Timur the Lame, right here. Back in 1192, Haridwar managed to remain completely free from Turkish rule. But fast forward to early 1398, and Timur sacks Meerut with just massive slaughter. By mid-1398, he advances on Haridwar. The local king Vatsaraj fiercely resists, but unfortunately he's outmatched. And then, by late 1398, Timur dispatches a military detachment specifically to plunder the wealth of Kumaon. You can clearly see how quickly this threat escalated and pivoted directly toward Jiya Rani's secluded home.
Now, the local mountain rulers were facing a massive, highly sophisticated army with almost no resources of their own. This dramatic vow from the historical source material perfectly captures the desperate, heroic mindset of the locals. They declared, "We accept giving up our lives, but while alive, allowing this Devbhoomi to be desecrated by cow blood is unacceptable." They knew for a fact they were severely outmatched, but their psychological resolve to protect their sacred land was just absolute.
The invaders' strategy up in the mountains was terrifyingly simple. Step 1, send a ruthless detachment to the Kumaon Mountains. Step 2, plunder the local wealth and the naive population. Step 3, achieve Jannat, or heaven, either through absolute conquest or by falling in battle. Faced with these grim tactical realities, Jiya Rani realized something huge. She couldn't rely on anyone else. She had to take immediate, direct action to protect her vulnerable subjects from absolute destruction.
Part 3. The Resistance at Rani Bagh.
Which brings us to the absolute defining moment of her life. With no formal, standing army at her disposal, she did the impossible. She mobilized and trained an improvised militia made up of local villagers, women, and youths. And she rallied them with this powerful battle cry. "Lions of the mountains, the time has come to protect our sacred lands, even if it costs us our lives. We will not let these invaders set foot on Devbhoomi." Through sheer force of will, she transformed everyday ordinary people into a highly motivated defensive force.
But notice the tragic contrast in military ethics here.
In Wave 1, Jiya Rani's untrained but highly motivated force miraculously and successfully repels Timur's first detachment. Acting on traditional Indian martial values, they actually show mercy and let the survivors flee. But look at Wave 2. The invaders return with advanced cavalry, artillery, and a deceitful counterattack that brutally overwhelms the Queen's forces. This brilliantly illustrates how traditional honor was met with sheer, devastating force and treachery. And that brings us to this stark number 1. That is the exact number of times the Queen's forces showed mercy. And it was a fatal mistake. Letting that first wave escape led directly to a brutal, unprovoked second wave, where the invading forces tragically beheaded her soldiers. The clash of military cultures on that battlefield was absolutely devastating.
Part 4. The Living Goddess.
So what exactly happens when a fierce warrior queen is completely cornered, stripped of her improvised army, and facing a ruthless enemy who clearly does not respect the rules of engagement? Well, the source material tells us this. To protect her chastity and honor, Rajmata Jiya Rani entered a sacred cave and transformed into the Chitrashila rock. Rather than surrender her dignity to the invaders, she made the ultimate sacrifice. According to the folklore, her flowing garment, left partly outside the cave, was immortalized as a stone outcrop known today as Gagra, or her skirt. This very moment marks her incredible transition from a mortal queen to a revered deity. Take the number 14. To put this into perspective, every single January 14th during the Uttarayani festival, descendants of her Katyuri lineage, along with thousands of others, climb the sacred trail to this very cave to pay homage. They remember her sacrifice not just as some ancient myth, but as a core, defining pillar of their cultural identity.
And her legacy absolutely thrives in modern times. Her cave isn't just an old historical site. It acts as an active pilgrimage site specifically for women seeking strength and justice. She is vibrantly celebrated in regional literature and folk theater. She's become a profound symbol for modern women's empowerment NGOs all across Uttarakhand. And she continues to inspire parents to name their daughters Jiya. Her story serves as a true indigenous blueprint for female self-respect, inner strength, and empowerment.
This perfectly highlights how history is actually remembered. In mainstream history books, she is largely undocumented. Through physical monuments, her presence is minimal, mostly just the natural cave formations. But in oral traditions and songs, her presence is central, immortalized, and actively worshipped. Institutions and distant empires may have completely forgotten her, but the collective memory and the spiritual justice of the Uttarakhandi people have kept her fiercely alive for over 6 centuries.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. If true queens reign through sacrifice and inner strength, who really writes our history? Is it the victors with their books or the songs of the people? As the chants of Jai Jiya continue to echo through the Himalayas today, I really hope this explainer has given you a powerful new perspective on how courage, honor, and memory truly survive.